By the way, I also want to say, we're headed to ARC. We have seen the complete destruction of the World Economic Forum. It has no legitimacy. It's embarrassing for world leaders to go there. It's run by a cartoon character villain, a character who's literally in Joe Rogan's toilet. Like, you go to do a Joe Rogan podcast, he's in the toilet. That's how seriously, in the pop culture mind, he is a ridiculous villain. World Economic Forum, because I know you founded ARC in part, I'm sure you had a lot of motivations, but it's certainly in part as a counterweight to world. You're not the counterweight. ARC is not the counterweight anymore. ARC is the main event for intellectual life in the West, oriented around a continuation and, first of all, a celebration of human specialness, a continuation of Western civilization as the best and only way to help all humans achieve their internal potential. It's this, I mean, for me, what a year for ARC. I mean, and it's a moment to I think you look back, it's not January, but you need the Janus face. You look back, you look forward. We're clearly entering a new era, and it's not totally clear what it is at all. And look at what we've got on our table. We're coming to a new era. It's a new media ecosystem. You get elected in different ways. It's social media and podcasting. You have to be able to sit. In 1960, you had to be able to be handsome on television. That's what the television revolution was about. The podcasting revolution is you must be able to sit for 3 hours with Joe Rogan and answer questions. And if you are unable to do that, as Kamala Harris was, you can't be president. Okay, so you've got to have some intellectual fortitude and stamina. And then we've got this massive technological question in front of us in terms of AI. We have two wars that are about to be wound down, need to be wound down, big questions around NATO, existential questions around our commitment to NATO. So I can't think of a kind of, more important. I mean, I think it was prescient to set up ARC. I think ARC has so much gravity as a center for this. It is the twilight. It's not even the twilight of the idols. We are in the we are zero dark 30 of the idols, and I think we're coming to daybreak. A new dawn is coming, but it's still very dark.
We're morally obliged to presume that the future is a welcoming and abundant place. That's a moral obligation. Once you're not naive and you've passed through the valley of nihilism, your moral obligation is to sustain your faith in the future. There's no difference between that and faith in civilization. There's no difference between that and faith in the spirit of life itself, right? And we should also point out, too, that commitment to free speech, if you cease to interpret freedom of speech as a hedonistic freedom, which is the freedom to say what you want for your own purposes, you can see it as a reflection of the particularly Christian insistence, although not only Christian insistence, that the word is the divine mechanism by which the cosmos itself is sustained. And at minimum, there's something deeply psychologically true about that, is that we cast our selves and our families and our societies, we cast them into being, especially the being that's good, with truthful, forthright, honest, merciful, and just speech. And you can't touch that, because that is the dynamic principle that keeps the land of promise alive. And so understanding the metaphysical assumptions upon which the freedom of speech is predicated I think it's now crucial. And it is shocking to us at ARC how rapidly things have pivoted. And we're also praying that, we don't fall prey to the same power-mad tendencies that typified the WEF. Now, you see, you talked about the betrayal of the elites. We should delve into that a little bit, because there's a very interesting dynamic going on in the US and in Europe with regards to so-called populism. See, and populism isn't populism. It's rebellion of the sane and grounded, although inarticulate, working class against their elite betters. so to speak, or at least the elites who think they're better. Now, the reason they think they're better is because they worship the intellect. And that's one of the potential dangers of so-called meritocracy. When you go to a place like Harvard, let's say, even when it's functioning, the implicit assumption is now you're among the better people. And the thing is, it's true that you're among the smarter people, but there's no correlation, for example, between IQ and conscientiousness, like zero. The correlation is literally zero. There's no indication at all that intelligence and wisdom or intelligence and morality are the same thing at all. Partly because if you're intelligent, you can do crooked things faster, right? So that's not a moral, there's nothing implicitly moral about that. Now, it's in the interest of the Luciferian intellects to assume that moral superiority, and in fact, that's like the nature of the Luciferian, is to assume moral superiority, but there's a usurping element of it too. And so the problem with the intelligent, let's say, and the self-satisfied simultaneously is the eternal problem of pride. You're blessed by God, at least so to speak, because your IQ is 3 standard deviations above the mean. And instead of being grateful for that and attempting to use it in service, you worship it and presume that you're ordained by the powers that be to rule the world.